drinking out of a Halloween mug in July because summerween is a thing. Hi, I'm Jaye, and I'm an ultra-processed food addict. Hi, Jaye. Yes, I feel like I'm at a 12-step meeting right now. Really, after the Washington Post article, I've been deconstructing that. Honestly, it reminds me of leaving the evangelical church. I'm deconstructing a lot about food, about industry here in America in particular. Almost like deconstructing out of a religion or a really extreme, like being in a cult, being brainwashed. I feel it all kind of unraveling. I'm convinced that the majority of us who are obese or morbidly obese really do have a food addiction. The food addiction is to food-like substances, food products that are manufactured in such a way that it overrides our hunger cues and it overrides everything natural in our brain that tells us when to stop eating, when we're full. Basically, my hormones are now so screwed up because I've had an abundance of manufactured food-like substances in my life for enough years for it to really cause some harm. The nature of those foods really are similar to drugs. I'm not saying they're as bad as a heroin addiction. I personally know somebody who is struggling with heroin addiction, and I still maintain that it isn't as hard to get a food addiction under control as a heroin addiction. I don't think it's as hard, but it can be really tricky because the dealers are out in your grocery store, and in restaurants and at parties and it's not an illegal substance. You can obtain it so freely and easily, and the food industry wants us to obtain it freely and easily. So the thought that I had this morning, though, that really kind of shook me and made me want to throw the camera on was, I've noticed that in my life, I started to become morbidly obese when I was using food to numb myself. And I thought, you know what? We don't numb ourselves with whole foods. We don't. We numb ourselves with ultra-processed foods and sugars. Doesn't that tell you how much those foods really are a drug-like substance? People use drugs and drink alcohol to numb themselves most of the time. I mean, I personally like to drink here and there because I love a good craft beer. I'm a Wisconsinite, come on. Packers game without a beer, I'm going to be drinking a beer. But, so some people like it because it's social and it's fun and whatever. But yeah, the majority of people, well, I should say binge drinkers, people who don't have a problem with binge drinking. I'm one of them, ironically. I have so much wine and beer in my house right now, you'd be amazed. I keep it here for when people come over. I don't get into it. I don't really care. A beer during a Packers game, wow, I can have one and put it, and not really continue. But people with binge drinking disorder, they're definitely numbing something that's going on up there. And when you're eating a lot of ultra-processed food and sugar, I think to the point where, especially when you're binging on it, you are numbing yourself. I'm convinced of it. At least I know I was. I haven't been for a while now. But we numb ourselves with ultra-processed food-like substances that operate in our brains similarly to drugs. And we heal ourselves with whole foods. Nobody is numbing themselves. Nobody is numbing with whole foods, healthy foods. We're numbing with the shit. So I'm just kind of pissed off at how society has really brainwashed us to believe that all things in moderation is good for us, and wanting to abstain from food-like substances is an eating disorder. Make that make fucking sense. And who decided that we have to eat everything in moderation as part of a balanced diet? That sounds like a marketing slogan to me. That does not really sound like common sense. I remember when I was straight size, normal size, thin, not overweight, not struggling with this bullshit disease. I didn't really think about food a lot, you know? I didn't. I was just getting on with my life. And did I have all things in moderation? Yes. But I wasn't like trying to actively follow the food pyramid, you know, and the RDA guidelines. Like, and back in the 80s, the food pyramid was grains first. Like, they recommended like, I think 11 servings of grains or some ridiculous thing like that. Like, it almost feels like when I start to listen to the government recommendations and registered dietitians and people who have been raised in the industry, that's when I get all out of whack and I struggle yet again with my relationship with food-like substances. So I guess I'm here to tell you that I have figured out and want to just fully admit that I'm an ultra-processed food addict. I am also a sugar addict. And I am moving forward with a commitment to pretty much eliminate that stuff out of my life completely. I would say 90% of my life will be whole foods, like ultra processed and sugar, special occasions only. Birthdays, holiday meetings, sometimes, if that even. What I've been observing while kind of just weaning off of the drugs, while weaning off of the food-like substances, that I don't have as much of a taste for that anymore anyway, so it's possible I won't even really want to partake of that stuff at special gatherings. Or maybe I just want to bring my own dessert or my own snacks that are much more whole and not crappy. But yeah, the thing that I wanted to just kind of log and come out here and say today is to think about that. Next time you feel yourself numbing yourself with food, what kind of food are you eating when you're numbing? And the next time you feel yourself wanting to heal yourself with food, what kind of food are you eating? To me, that just says everything. We've been sold, marketed this lie, and I refuse to buy in anymore. And I've decided that I know my trigger foods and my problematic foods, and keeping them out of the house and omitting them is not an eating disorder. It is discipline, it is common sense, it is healing for my body to not have those temptations around and to just say no. Just like that drug campaign in the 80s, just say no. Dare to keep your body off of ultra-processed foods. I guess I should make the t-shirt. Ooh, I think I will. recovery begins with admitting that there is a problem. And I don't believe admitting that there's a problem is an eating disorder. I really believe that it's a true legit problem for me. So that's going to be the next kind of story, I guess, in my life, in my health. And it'll be really exciting to document that and share it here. So let me know what you think in the comments. How do you feel about ultra-processed food and sweets and sugar? And, some people say it's really overblown to say that that stuff is addictive and there's no such thing as food addiction. And some people say there really is. And I know it's based on personal experience. My own parents can have chips in the house and sugar, and they make full-fledged desserts, and they have a very balanced relationship with food. But they've never been morbidly obese. So, I feel like their hormones and their hunger hormones and their ability to self-regulate is solid. So there may be a time in my future when, after I've gone through the psychological healing and the emotional healing and the physical healing that I need to go through right now to get this weight off of me and to get my body in a place where it's regulated and everything's functioning correctly in my brain, it's possible I'll be like them and I'll be able to have chips in the house and never touch them, except when people come over, or a little bowl of it during a football game, similar to how I am with alcohol. I don't know. I really don't know. This will be a one day at a time process, just like the 12-step programs say, one day at a time. So I don't know. Let me know what you think. Some people say it's overblown. Some people have no problem with having ultra-processed foods in their houses, and they don't even touch the stuff sometimes at gatherings, and it's just not on their radar. I wish I was like that. Honestly, it feels like life would be really just so much easier. But things that happened in my past, definitely traumas that happened, abusive relationships, sexual trauma, all of that shit, definitely I can see now that that's when I started numbing myself completely with ultra-processed foods. It all started in my 20s. I thought maybe it was because I got a desk job, and so my life was a little more sedentary, but that's not even true, because I was working out like every day. I was walking a lot, and even at my work, like I had to walk the whole building like all the time. I took the stairs a lot. I think it was a numbing. It was a substance. It was a way to deal with emotions I didn't know how to deal with. So yeah, I got a problem, and I'm here to recover, and I'll be covering my recovery. Wow, say that 3 times fast. Covering my recovery process here. It's kind of taken on a whole new form. It's not as simple as calories in, calories out anymore for me. It's deeper than that. It's much deeper than that. So I'm putting myself on a therapeutic diet, is what I'm calling it. And I'll talk about that more at a later date too, when I've got time and I kind of assembled my thoughts. So thank you for being here, for listening, for supporting me. Everybody who has come here from Sam at Every Size's channel and Obese to Beast, and Kayla Shea. She also talked about me. She's amazing. I'll be reacting to her video too. Welcome, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. I'm so grateful. My community, my small community is like so wonderfully supportive. And I am so appreciative that this is a safe space for me to share my story, my struggles, my victories, all that stuff. Please hit the subscribe button or the thumbs up button. Or you could hit the thumbs down too if you like to eat apples with worms in the middle. And you love the worm. You love it when he comes out, wiggles his little wiggly face at you, smiles. You're like, you're gone, son of a bitch. Yeah, can hit the thumbs down if you're an apple with worm eater. Hit the thumbs down.